Hi, guys. So, as some of you have probably noticed by now, we have been increasing our protests as of late. We protested outside the MLA's office. We protested outside the town building yesterday before their town council meeting. And we've been trying to set up a protest outside the Tabor Times office, which I'm hoping we can pull off this week. Now, the reason for this is to revert back to an old saying, the squeaky wheel gets the grease, which basically means that he who speaks the loudest is heard first. Now, part of this is we want to keep our cause and our opinions and our truth and our facts in the public eye and force it to be addressed by those who wish to just sweep it under the rug or hide it or deny it or pretend it's not there. We want to keep this issue in the forefront of their minds and in the forefront of the public's minds so the people are forced to question this stuff, so the people are forced to look at it from different angles, so they're forced to pay attention to the other side of the argument, which gets not near enough airplay. I mean, how many opposing voices to the government do you hear on the radio or on TV or any mainstream news source? Practically zero. So this is our way of being heard. This is our way of getting our side of the story and our facts out there as much as we can. But also, we wanted this town to show some sense and get rid of this stupid mandatory mask bylaw that they claimed at first was a moot point and that we needed to be educated. Well, they're not claiming that anymore, as you will see in this upcoming video, because as we protested outside the town building yesterday, they were inside addressing our petition and whether to rescind it one more time. Will we like the results of their decision? No. I'm sure that won't shock many of you. Another thing that I'm sure won't shock many of you is the councillor who seems to be at the forefront of this denial once again. I'm guessing you can probably figure out who that is. So we will get to that clip, and then after that, they also addressed the validity of our petition. They called into question and got some legal advice, in fact, on whether or not this was a legal petition. So if the town council has to get advice on whether or not this is a legal petition, how do they expect the average citizen to know that? Now, here is the first clip. We will analyze these things and go through these together. The first clip is their decision on whether or not to repeal the mandatory mask bylaw.
On to item 5.4, temporary mandatory face covering bylaw 22-2020. Mr. Orwa.
Yes, His Worship, I would call upon Ms. Vanham to explain some details here before we open discussion with Council.
Great, thank you.
Ms. Vanham, please proceed.
Good afternoon, Your Worship and Council.
Good afternoon.
Your Pro-Cup has previously requested that this bylaw come back to Council for further consideration of continuing on with the bylaw or having that discussion. And so that's why it is in front of you today. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Councillor Bruin.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to make a motion that council continues to follow provincial recommendations with regards to wearing masks and follow their guidelines.
All right, thank you. Motion on the table. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Excuse me, could you have your microphone turned
Yes.
on? I didn't hear the motion. Thank you.
Oh, okay. All right. Sorry.
Sorry, Ms. Van Ham. I'll make the motion that Town of Tabor follows provincial guidelines in regards to mask wearing and follow their direction.
Right. Thank you. Motion on the table.
Now, what I understand from that is Councillor Bruin is saying, I motion to say, okay, let's get rid of the bylaw. Let's just leave that provincial health mandate that's already in place. Let's just leave that and let them decide what to do. Let's get rid of our municipal bylaw. That's what I take from that.
Any further discussion? Councillor Beckering.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I can appreciate the motion that Council Bruin makes and made. However, it doesn't really address the issue at hand. Mr. Mayor, if I may, we have to follow the Alberta Health Services guidelines. We have no choice in that matter. We're talking about a Town of Tabor municipal bylaw. So we should discuss that.
Yes, that's correct.
Aspects.
So thank you, Councillor Beckering. I guess for Councillor Bruin, I believe Councillor Beckering is very accurate with that statement. So
I
with-
would assume that we could say no masks in the town of Tabor and pass that bylaw. Provincial guidelines, bylaws override anything we decide. So I think my motion to follow provincial guidelines with wearing masks is sufficient.
All right, thank you. I guess just for clarification purposes and or in all fairness, the discussion was basically to discuss our own bylaw. So I'm not suggesting you take that off the table, Councillor Bruin, but I think we probably need some further discussion on our present temporary bylaw.
Okay.
That's fair to yourself before we get to that?
For certain, sure.
All right, thank you. Councillor Stravas.
Yes, Your Worship, I think before we proceed with this originally was a regional initiative, so that would work between all the MD plus the little communities around. So, I think to be fair, if we're going to rescind this, I think we should contact all of our mutual partners in the area again, and this should be done collaboratively so that everybody in the area and the MD and the towns all around us that follow the same guidelines. So when you go from one district to the next, you know exactly where you stand. And I think probably that's what we need to do with this here. And just a little footnote: City of Lethbridge just extended their masking bylaw, to the balance of the year. So,
All right.
Unfortunately, these things are not going away.
Thank you, Councillor Strauss. I'm not disagreeing. I'm thinking in all fairness that that probably requires a motion in that regard. However, we have to deal with Councillor Bruno's motion first, and I will do that. But again, we're still in the discussion phase, so I'll go to Councillor Firth, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I was not aware that we were considering rescinding this bylaw. As with the City of Lethbridge extending their bylaw, and as previously discussed, the public health order in place that requires mandatory face coverings.
Sorry, but I just quickly wanted to address her attitude there. I was unaware that we were revisiting the mandatory mask bylaw. I was unaware that we were actually listening to these little underlings. I don't know. That's what I get from that. She has a very condescending tone, and she has taken personal shots at members of this group.
I believe that leaving our bylaw in place, even though the public health order would supersede that, I think it just underlines that and shows the town of Tabor's support for public health guidelines.
All right, thank you, Councillor Firth. Councillor Bruin?
I would appreciate a friendly amendment if Councillor First would like to add to my motion.
All right, Councillor Firth, you prepared to do that?
Certainly, I can try and fashion one. What was your original motion?
That the town of Tabor follows provincial guidelines in regards to wearing masks.
And that the town of Tabor leaves their face covering bylaw in place until such public health orders have been lifted by the province.
And I would accept that amendment.
All right, thank you. Councillor Stravas, you're still willing to do your part in the motion with your suggestion with the collaborative format as well?
Well, Your Worship, I think that pretty much covers it, that we're leaving the motion in effect, so there's no point, unless one of the other communities reaches out to us that wants to rescind theirs. I think this covers it quite nicely.
All right.
So at first it's a moot point, and now it's showing support for public health guidelines, and they're going to back up the provincial government by leaving theirs in place. They're just talking around in circles. They're just finding excuses. Clearly it wasn't a moot point, and clearly it's not about showing support for public health guidelines. So what's it about, Carly Firth?
Councillor, or Mr. Roa?
No, I just want to check with Vanham if she got the motion.
Ms. Van Ham?
I did get it. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. Friendly amended motion on the table. Any further discussion? All in favor? Carried unanimously. Great, thank you. On to item 6, action items, item 6.1, declaration of validity and sufficiency of petition. Mr. Roa.
Now this next part is about a section in the Municipal Government Act which says that a petition must be declared legal. I will post that coming up in the video, but that's what they're going to talk about in this next part. Is this CAO, well, the interim CAO, the other one, Corey Armfeldt, as you may remember, was immediately fired with no word from them on why or what the circumstances surrounding that were. Kind of shady in many ways. So that's what this next part is about, is they have gone and investigated whether our petition is sufficient.
Yes, again, I would call upon Ms. Vanham to explain again the declaration about this petition to council, please.
Great, thank you, Ms. Benham.
Hello again, Your Worship and Council. So the municipality, as you know, received a petition that was submitted and addressed to town council from someone who identified himself as the co-founder and organizer of an anti-COVID alliance. And the petition's purpose statement was to have the removal of Tabor's mandatory mask bylaw. This bylaw, as you know, was instigated on November 30th by council at that time, and that's the one that we just discussed. So we had a legal opinion, and you've seen that. It is an agenda item in closed session. And just to have them take a look at the validity and the sufficiency of the petition. So there are certain legislative requirements of a valid petition. There are several sufficiency requirements dictated by the Municipal Government Act for any petition to be valid, as set out in sections 222 through 225 of the MGA. Sections 222 of the MGA mandates that only electors of the town are eligible to be petitioners. Section 223 states that to be sufficient, a petition must be signed by electors of the municipality equal to 10% of the population. There are more requirements under the Municipal Government Act outlining the sufficiency and the validity of a petition. Some of them are counting of the petitioners, how they are to be counted, requirements of number of signatures as mentioned, a witness of the signature, swearing an affidavit, the date of the signature, and a signed statement of the representative of the required, along with others. So it is before you today because the requirement is for the CAO to declare if a petition is valid or not. There's also a requirement for it to be declared within a certain time frame of receiving the petition. And so it is before you with the recommended motion, as it is not viewed that this petition is sufficient or valid. However, it is at the discretion of council you do retain the discretion as whether or not you would like to act in any manner in relation to the subject matter of the petition. So I am available if you have any questions, but it is presented for you in the RFD.
All right, thank you, Ms.
Thank
Benham. Councilor Bruin.
Mr. Mayor, I'm prepared to make this motion now. Council accepts the CAO's declaration to the Town of Tabor Council that the petition stating the removal of Tabor's mandatory mask bylaw 22-2020 is not sufficient to meet the requirements of the Municipal Government Act, and it was not submitted within the 60-day limitation period provided under Section 2332 of the Municipal Government Act. Additionally, even if the petition had been received within the time period required by Section 2332 of the Municipal Government Act, the petition does not have a significant number of signatures to satisfy Section 22232A of the Municipal Government Act.
All right, thank you. Very lengthy motion on the table. Well done. Any further discussion? All in favor? Carried unanimously. Great, thank you.
It was sufficient.
Attaboy.
So basically the gist of that is that they declared our petition invalid because it didn't have 10% of the population on it. Now that's something they didn't bring up the first time they brought up that our petition though, is it? Until we protested outside their office and made them actually look into it again, it wasn't something they brought up at all. But now they've questioned the validity and thrown it out, I guess. Good on you, Tabor Town Council.